I'm sitting here looking at a restraining order and a hospital bill for $6,000, and I honestly have to ask, at what point does supporting your partner's dream become enabling their insanity? My girlfriend of 4 years, the woman I thought I'd grow old with, just tried to throw away our entire life because she became convinced she was the next Chelsea Green. She didn't just want to watch WWE. She became obsessed with the idea that she belonged in the main event of WrestleMania, despite having the athletic ability of a sloth and the temperament of a spoiled child. I'm talking about a woman who quit her stable job, drained our secret wedding fund, and nearly got us both arrested at a live event. All because she thought she had the look. Was I the jerk for orchestrating a plan to humiliate her just enough to save her life? Tell me, would you have stood by and watched your soulmate destroy herself, or would you have played the villain to save her future? I need you to listen to the whole story before you judge me, because what she did at the very end is something I still can't wrap my head around. Our life together was perfect until 6 months ago. Sarah was a freelance editor, and I'm a software developer. We were the boring couple. We saved our money, we went for hikes, and we were 3 months away from putting a down payment on a beautiful 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. We had a joint savings account that we called the Forever Fund. It had $40,000 in it. That was our blood, sweat, and tears. But then, Sarah's sister got her tickets to a WWE live show. Sarah had never watched wrestling in her life, but that night, something in her brain just snapped. She saw Chelsea Green, the outfits, the attitude, the crowd's reaction. And she decided right then and there that her life as an editor was over. She didn't come home and say, I have a new hobby. She came home and said, I'm quitting my job tomorrow because I'm moving to Orlando to join the performance center. I thought she was drunk. I laughed. I told her she was hilarious. But she didn't laugh back. She looked at me with this terrifying, cold intensity and said, I have more charisma in my pinky than those girls have in their whole bodies. I'm going to be a star, and you're either with me or you're in my way. The next day, the nightmare began in earnest. I woke up to find that she had already sent her resignation email. She spent the entire afternoon at the mall, and when she came back, she had bags and bags of neon spandex, high-heeled boots, and enough sequins to cover a car. When I asked how she paid for it, she casually mentioned she used our Forever Fund credit card. That was the first $2,000 gone. I tried to sit her down, to be the voice of reason. I told her, Sarah honey, Chelsea Green has been training since she was a teenager. She's an elite athlete. You get a migraine if the TV is too loud. This isn't a game. She just sneered at me, literally sneered, and said I was projecting my own mediocrity onto her. She started calling herself the Emerald Duchess, and spent 8 hours a day in front of a full-length mirror, practicing her mean girl face and cutting promos on our cat. It sounds funny, I know, but when you're watching your life savings vanish into a pile of spandex, it's anything but funny. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, and eventually stopped talking to me unless it was in character. She started posting these cringy videos on TikTok, tagging Triple H and Nick Khan, demanding a contract. When the internet trolls started tearing her apart, she didn't see it as a reality check. She saw it as heat. She thought she was a natural-born heel. Things escalated when she found a wrestling scout online. This guy was a total creep, a bottom feeder who promised he could get her a meeting with WWE brass if she paid for a portfolio package. It was $5,000. I told her it was a scam. I showed her the reviews. I begged her not to do it. She told me I was just jealous that someone else recognized her star power. She took the money out of the house fund without telling me. When I found out, we had a screaming match that lasted until 3 a.m. I told her that if she spent 1 more cent of that money, I was leaving. She looked at me and said, Fine, leave. A duchess doesn't need a peasant. She stayed, but the wall between us was now a mountain. She was living in a complete delusion. She started dieting like a pro athlete, but without the actual exercise. She grew weak, irritable, and even more obsessed. She started watching Chelsea Green interviews on a loop, mimicking her voice and her mannerisms until the woman I loved was completely gone. I was living with a ghost in a glittery leotard. I reached a breaking point when she told me she had booked a flight to Florida to confront the management at the performance center. She was convinced that if she just walked through the front door, they would see her and sign her on the spot. I knew that if she went, she would be humiliated, trespassed, and possibly hurt. I had to do something drastic. I contacted a local independent wrestling promoter, a guy named Big Steve, who ran shows in a dusty warehouse for 50 people. I told him the situation and I paid him, out of my own personal savings, to give her a tryout. But I told him, don't go easy. Show her what the business actually feels like. I told Sarah that a scout from WWE was going to be at this local gym, and they wanted to see her work. She was so arrogant she didn't even doubt it. She showed up in her full Emerald Duchess gear, looking like a neon nightmare in a room full of actual athletes who had been training for years. So that's the situation I was in. I was literally paying people to humble the woman I loved, because it was the only way to save her from a life of total ruin. I was terrified that she would find out and never forgive me, but I was more terrified of her ending up homeless in Orlando. Before I tell you what happened in that ring, and the devastating secret I found out after she came home, I want you to pause right now. Go to the comments and tell me, am I a monster for lying to her to protect our future? Would you have let her fly to Florida and fail on a national stage? Or would you have set up this fake tryout like I did? Be honest, because what happens next changed our relationship forever. The tryout was the most painful thing I've ever had to watch. Big Steve put her in the ring with a girl who had been training for 6 years. They didn't even do a match. They just did drills. 10 minutes of running the ropes. If you've never touched a wrestling rope, you don't realize they are basically steel cables covered in thin rubber. By the third time Sarah hit the ropes, her back was covered in deep, purple welts. She was gasping for air, her Duchess persona evaporating with every breath. Then Big Steve told her it was time to learn how to take a bump. He made her fall flat on her back, over and over again. I watched my girlfriend, the woman I used to have quiet Sunday brunches with, sobbing on a dirty canvas mat in a warehouse that smelled like old socks. She looked at the scout, who was actually just Big Steve's brother in a suit, and begged for a break. He just looked at his clipboard and said, "Chelsea Green doesn't take breaks. Are you a star or a fan?" She tried to keep going, but her body just gave out. She vomited in the corner of the ring, and crawled out under the bottom rope, her neon outfit torn and covered in dust. When we got home, she didn't say a word. She went straight to the bathroom and stayed there for 2 hours. When she finally came out, she was wearing her old pajamas. She looked small, defeated, and human again. But then the real bomb dropped. I went to her laptop to close her tabs, and I saw her bank statement. She hadn't just spent the $7,000 I knew about. She had opened a secret credit card in my name and maxed it out on promotional materials and consulting fees to that scammer online. We weren't just short for the house. We were $20,000 in debt. I felt like the world was spinning. I confronted her, and she broke down. She told me she knew it was a delusion, but she was so miserable in her editing job and so scared of just being a normal person that she latched onto the first shiny thing she saw. She wanted to be Chelsea Green because Chelsea looked like she had control, like she was special. The aftermath was a slow, agonizing crawl back to reality. We had to cancel the house plans. We had to move into a smaller apartment to pay off the debt she racked up in my name. I should have left her. My friends told me to leave her. My parents told me she was unstable. But I looked at her, bruised and broken, and I saw the girl who used to edit my essays in college. I saw the person I loved, buried under a pile of sequins and bad decisions. We started therapy, lots of it. She's back to work now, but she's not allowed to have a credit card. Every time a WWE commercial comes on, she flinches. It's a trauma we both share now. I saved her from the ring, but I couldn't save us from the consequences of her choices. We're still together, but the Forever Fund is empty, and the trust is even emptier. We're rebuilding one day at a time, but the shadow of the Emerald Duchess still hangs over us like a ghost. This whole experience taught me that dreams are dangerous things when they aren't tempered by reality. I learned that you can love someone with all your heart, and still have to be the one to break their spirit to keep them safe. It's a heavy burden to carry, knowing that I'm the reason she stopped believing she was special, even if being special was going to kill us. If you've ever had to save someone from themselves, you know how lonely that feels. Like this video if you think I made the right call by setting up that fake tryout. Subscribe for more stories that dive into the dark side of relationships and the crazy things people do when they lose their way. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did I go too far, or was I just doing what a partner should do? I'll be reading every single one of your responses. I'll see you all in the next story.